Okay, now we're going to have a look at actually adding an arpeggiator. This is a great way of creating a counter melody and a great way of actually making your music have a bit more movement and sound a little bit more interesting. So what we're going to do is create an arpeggio by using the Arpeggiator MIDI effects. So let's actually find this piano part here. And now underneath this, let's create a new software instrument. And this time let's choose ES2 synthesizer again. And then hit create. Now we're going to actually copy all this piano information down. Let's actually rename this by double clicking Arpeggiator. And the reason we're using this information is because it plays each note of the chord. And what an arpeggiator does is it plays each note of the chord in whatever order you set it to in the MIDI effects. Now let's just solo this and create a loop. Okay, and now over here, we go over to MIDI effects. And let's choose the first one, which is Arpeggiator. So we have loads of different things here. We have note order. So we have going up, going down, up and down and up, then random and a few other ones. We have different variations for each, different octave ranges, different rate. We can also draw in patterns here with the grid. But for now, we're just going to use a default. Let's just choose chord cycle 1. We can go through and change the rate. Okay, I think this one works. Classic cycle 1. The order is up and down. Variation is variation 2. Octave range number 2. I do recommend going in and studying this, but it is best, in my opinion, when quickly writing a song to start off with a preset and then go in and tweak this and change it around. So let's hear this in the mix. We can always go into the ES2 synthesizer and change some of this around. Okay, great. And now wherever the piano plays, at the moment, there will be an arpeggiator. We can also add an arpeggiator into this breakdown section here. Just going to actually copy this over. I'm just going to add the last 2 chords and drag this over. And that's basically how we can add an arpeggiator in Logic Pro. It's really simple. What we used to have to do is either buy an external third-party plugin that was an arpeggiator or manually go in and write the notes. You can still do this, but I just like using the Arpeggiator MIDI plugin because it makes it so much easier. The only problem with this now is it does kind of clash when this riff plays. So I recommend is actually going through and not having too much of the arpeggiator. So whenever the riff plays, I might get rid of the arpeggiator. And then whenever the riff isn't there, I put on the arpeggiator. Because if there's too many notes, there's too many melodies, there's too much going on, the listener will get confused. They won't know what to listen to. So a lot of this is about arrangement. It is about putting the right amount in. It's like baking a cake. You don't want to put too many ingredients in. You just want the perfect amount of ingredients and the perfect type of ingredients. That's really what songwriting is. That's really what composition is putting the right ingredients into your track. There is something called too much. Like right there was too much going on, and the best thing to do is to take stuff out. So let's have a quick listen to this now with the Arpeggiator in. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just change the sound of the arpeggiator a little bit, just so it suits the song a bit better. A lot of this is about sound design. You might think being a songwriter, being a composer, is just about writing the notes, just about writing the melodies, but it's not. Sound design is extremely important. You don't really want to rely on a producer to do this for you. In this day and age, you really have the option to do it all yourself. So I recommend do it yourself, even if you're a singer-songwriter, even if you don't see yourself as a producer. Just learn some of the basics, learn the basics of sound design and synthesis. And then if you do give it to a producer, they'll be able to do a lot more of it because you've already done the basics. You've already done the fundamentals. So remember to go through in your synthesizer and just basically tweak some of the knobs. It's a good idea to learn stuff like oscillators, filters, and envelopes. But if you don't know this, I recommend start off with presets and then just go down to the macros and just do it by ear. See what sounds good and also look what the macro does. If it moves certain knobs or dials, look what it changes and try and work out why it's doing that. So now I'm going to go down and just find a sound. I recommend you do the same. I'm going to fast forward this section, but all I'm really doing is scrolling through the presets and I'll show you how I'm going to tweak the sound. Found this synth sound called Wave Pad Groove 3, and let's listen to this with the arpeggio. Let's change the blend over to the left. Okay, great. I'm going to leave it like this and maybe detune it slightly. So all I've really done is change the wave, decrease the attack time, and change a bit of the modulation and resonance. So let's have a listen to this in the mix. Okay, so this is basically how we can throw an arpeggiator into the mix really quickly, and we can use this as a counter melody, a really quick way of actually adding some more movement and making our songs sound more exciting. Next, we're going to be looking at arrangement.